everybody, welcome back. I'm trying to get you where you're standing up straight. Anyway, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here, to Big Family Little Farm and to my kitchen. I'm glad that you're here with us today, and I thought I would share. I have a sweet friend who watches every single video, so if you're watching, hi Jason. And Jason asked if I would include some recipes of the things that I make on the channel. To be honest with you, I don't really cook with recipes, but I can try. But this is something I'm making up, so there's not a recipe. I'm so sorry, Jason. But this is one package of mild Italian sausage. And then what I have over here are my freeze-dried sweet potatoes and russet potatoes. Now the russet potatoes are thinner cut than these, and I want to see which cut I like better, and I want to see how these do in this kind of dish. So essentially what I'm doing is I am browning up my Italian sausage, and then I'm going to make kind of a creamy like gravy. I'm going to use the last of my cream of chicken soup because we're still in the pantry challenge, and I'm trying to work through some of that stuff. One of my goals is to make my own cream of soup, but I have some left over from Christmas that I bought. And so we're going to use the last of that, which I'll run into the pantry and grab shortly. And so essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to brown this up, and then using that grease and a little bit of flour, I'm going to make a really light roux. And then I'm going to use the cream of soup with a little bit of water because I'm out of milk completely to thin that out. Make the sauce, and then in two small dishes, I'm going to put some sweet potato in one and the russet potato in the other, and top it with this mixture. Let some of the water absorb, and then I'm going to top it with cheese and bake it. Now, I don't have any measurements for this. I can tell you that this was, I think, 16 ounces of Italian sausage, but if you have a Kroger or any of those brands near you, it's just a package of sausage, that's it. As far as how many potatoes, you could absolutely do this with fresh potatoes if you wanted to, but I've got people asking me about how the freeze-dried potatoes reconstitute, and since I haven't used them yet, I couldn't answer that. So I thought today would be a great time to answer that. So while I'm browning this, let me tell you a little bit about who I am, what I do, and why I do it. Okay, just occurred to me that I didn't have the microphone on, and this is kind of loud, so I wanted you to be able to hear me a little bit better. Anyway, while I brown the sausage, I thought I would tell you a little bit about who I am and why I do what I do. So my name is Jen, and this is Big Family Little Farm. We have 5 daughters, 2 sons that we took in a little later in life, and 3 grandchildren. Owning a farm was definitely not my dream. It was my husband's. I'm from a big city. Y'all, what I knew about farming when we started, you could have fit into the period at the end of the sentence or the head of a pen, right? But I'm learning, thanks to a lot of these creators on YouTube, I'm learning a lot. We've always been ones to kind of store food, not necessarily because we're like doomsday preppers or anything, but just because, we had a large family. And for most of that time, we had just one income. And so I learned to stretch the dollars and make them sing. And that meant buying in bulk, and it meant lots of beans and rice in our early years. In fact, my Instant Pot is still out so that I can make some beans for next week. And I'm going to start those today and finish them tomorrow. So we have a huge pantry. I'm sorry, that was probably loud. If you've been here for any length of time, you've seen our pantry multiple times, I'm sure. Right now it's real dirty, and one of the things I'm going to do between today and tomorrow is clean it. Anyway, if you're new here, I've joined with Jessica over at Three Rivers Homestead, and we are doing the pantry challenge for the months of January and February. Now, how she does it is she just doesn't go to the grocery store, but you make your own rules. So my rules for my personal pantry challenge have been We go to the store because we don't yet produce dairy here on our little homestead farm. We go to the store for dairy, so cheese, yogurt, milk, cream, all of those things, right? Butter. We don't make any of that yet. We will eventually, but we haven't yet. And then we get anything that we have to have. So like there are things you need as a female that you might run out of that you don't want to run out of. You know what I mean? So we buy that sort of thing, medications if we need them, maybe vitamin C or Tylenol or whatever we need. And then we buy meat if it's on sale. But we haven't bought, I don't think we've really bought much of anything else. So this meat was on sale. I bought it last week and it was on sale. I have a pound of ground turkey that I'm going to be cooking up today. And that was also on sale. I'm going to make some black bean soup for next week. It's supposed to kind of bring some cooler temperatures is what I heard. And I love black bean soup. So, so I'm making black bean soup for next week with the ground turkey. Anyway, this has worked to show us what it is that we need more preparation for. My ultimate goal with our homestead is to produce as much food as possible for a whole year. So we have chickens now for eggs. Of course, I'm allergic to eggs, so that matters very little to me. But, you know, everybody else, my mom comes to get eggs and that saves them some money. My children, if they need them, come and get eggs. Like my oldest daughter is coming back home to pack her stuff and I'm going to send her with a couple dozen eggs. You know, next time my mom comes this way, I'm going to send her with a couple dozen eggs. And then, of course, the farmer and the daughter both eat eggs when they need them as well. So we also will process chickens. We're in the process now of getting some chicken tractors and things like that up and running so that we can have laying birds versus meat birds and keep fresh chickens as well. Anyway, so back to what I'm doing here. I don't really have a recipe. I'm sorry, Ox. But my grandmother taught me a lot about cooking, and she sort of measured with her heart. She didn't really follow very many recipes. Now, if you're a baker, a recipe is important to follow. When I make the bread, I follow a recipe. If I attempt cakes or cookies, I use a recipe. I don't attempt those things often because it's one of those things where I know I'm not good at it. But anyway, we're not really big time cake eaters anyway, so it really doesn't matter that I'm bad at it. So, anywho, that's a little bit about me. The reason we wanted to start farming in the first place was one of our children was diagnosed with a whole host of food allergies, and we wanted to be able to know where the food was coming from. Turns out her testing was wrong. So if you get the pinprick test for food allergies, just know that there's a high false positive count with those. And as it turns out, she was not allergic to most of what she tested positive for. In fact, the only thing, and it wasn't really an allergy, is that she's lactose intolerant. And it did test as a milk allergy, but it's not really an allergy. It's just an intolerance. So there was very little need for us to restrict her eating as much as we did. We just didn't know better. Do your own research. I am not a doctor. I am not anything more than a hippie mom who has done a lot of studying on her own. So what I tell you is from my experience. It's not because I'm a medical professional. I am a professional teacher. I've done this for 25 years teaching. And so that's why I share with you what I share with you, is because my heart lies in education. Always do your own research. I don't care who it is. It might be your doctor or your nurse practitioner. It might be your best friend next door. It might be your best friend across the states. It might be your favorite YouTuber. Always research what they tell you and do your own research and take responsibility for your own health and the health of your family. That's what I've done, and that's what I would encourage you to do. Anyway, so one of the things we do is we do what we call eat real food. And so we have a pretty clean diet most of the time. Now, that's not to say that we don't run through the drive-thru on a busy day. Yesterday, I had a slice of pizza and an Arby's sandwich. And that's what I ate yesterday. And then I had a little bit of pepperoni and a slice of Swiss cheese when I got home, just for the protein.
Your laundry camera on Mom and Dad's room is ringing.
Computer. Stop timer.
Laundry timer stopped on mom and dad.
Anyway, so we have basically just taken our health into our hands. This over the last week, we've processed beef bones and made bone broth. We're making tallow. We have done a lot of these things that we're learning how to do just solely because it's better for us, and that's important to us. Okay, so this meat is just about brown. Some of it is still pink. And I'm going to tell you, I'm putting this in the oven when I'm done. It's okay that it's pink. I promise. I'm going to open this door that's right behind you. It's a good thing I'm OCD, isn't it? Anyway. Oh, I'm sorry. I just rammed that into the camera. I apologize. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the grease in the pan, and I'm going to turn the pan down, and I'm just going to scoop. Oop, I missed some. I'm going to scoop this out into this bowl. And I'm going to use this grease to make a slight roux. And I think I already said this, but I just want to reiterate what I'm doing for you, because there's not really a recipe. Like I said, I'm making this up because it sounds good to me. And sometimes that's just how it rolls. And I do have a cookbook that I've written. It is not published yet because, honestly, I haven't figured all that out yet. And I'm kind of in a stage of life where I'm working just to pay bills right now. So I don't have time to do any research. But if any of you know anything about publishing a book, feel free to tell me because I would love to know. Anyway, so I'm going to grab the pieces that I dropped, and then I'll be back to show you the roux and what I do next. Okay, so here on the counter next to you that you can't see, I have my flour container, and I'm just going to sprinkle a touch of that in here. Doesn't have to be much. It's not a whole lot of grease. But what this will do is, number one, it'll thicken my sauce, but it will also prevent the grease from feeling greasy in the dish. So, my flours are crumbly. It's like clumpy, I guess is really the word, not crumbly, but I'm going to add just a little bit more. Okay. And then what I have, I don't know if you can see it over here, but I have some cream of, I think it's cream of chicken is what I have left. Typically, I use cream of chicken more than anything else, but cream of celery, mushroom, whatever you have would work. Or you could just make a cream sauce. A cream sauce is pretty simple. And if you're interested in seeing how I do that, I can do a whole video on it. Just let me know. So there I have my little, it's not a heavy roux, it's not a dark roux, it's just basically cooking the flour a little bit so that it's not floury, right? And then I'm going to scrape out my cream of chicken soup. I had 3 cans left, and for this I'm only going to use 2. But it's almost gone, so that works. Now into these dishes, I have my 2 little Corelle dishes here. I don't know if you can see them, but one of them is going to be, they both match, like they're vintage, and I got them at different times. So I think it's kind of neat that they match. I think this might be the one that my mother-in-law has, this set. Anyway, nonetheless, I'm going to use these smaller dishes because I'm not doing much. It's just for my daughter and I. She doesn't like sweet potatoes, and I don't eat the other potatoes, so we're each going to have our own dish. And we're going to have some salad with it. But because this is a meal, I'm also including green beans because, well, I'm that mom. And I think you need to have veggies. And yes, I realize I just said we're going to have a salad with it. But, if I won't eat this whole thing with a salad, right? So this way I can, I can have it later and not if I don't have salad. You know what I mean? Anyway, I don't think I'm making very much sense. Anywho, so I want to tell you about some of my favorite YouTube creators. Now, I've already mentioned Jessica over at Three Rivers Homestead, but there is a sweet little lady named Tiffany She's one of my favorite people on the planet. And she has 2 YouTube channels. She has Our Small Town Life. She lives in a tiny little Alabama town, and she talks about her, oops, don't make a mess like I just did. She talks about her family's life in small town Alabama. And it's a really great channel. She also has From Mama's Kitchen, and that's not how she says it. She says From Mama's Kitchen. I say Mama because of where I'm from. Anyway, so I'm gonna need more water to thin this out. Anyway, if you haven't ever gone to her channel, go and give her some love, because she is an amazing creator, and she's just got a heart for people, y'all. She is so sweet. We've actually kind of developed a little bit of a friendship, although maybe it's all in my head, and she's like, oh, who's this crazy lady talking about me? But we talk on Instagram and stuff like that. And anyway, she just means the world to me. And then there's Seed and Sparrow Homestead. And off the top of my head right now, I cannot remember her name, but she is the sweetest, most loving creator. And I just love watching her stuff. All 3 of these ladies are homesteaders with smaller children than what I have. So I was homesteading before homesteading was cool, I suppose. And now it's kind of the thing to do with so much uncertainty in the world. And let me just encourage you, there is a lot of uncertainty right now, and it can be scary if you let it get to you. Don't let it get to you. My mom has this saying. My mom's a really cool lady. I think you would love her, but I don't think she'd agree to be on camera with me so that you could meet her. Anyway, she has said this for a very long time, and I've now taken, this is garlic salt, and this measurement right here is a teaspoon. So I'm going to use a teaspoon of garlic salt, a teaspoon of white pepper, half a teaspoon of black pepper, and half a teaspoon of Himalayan salt. Okay? But I only know that because this is a teaspoon measuring. My friend's son does woodwork, and he made them for me, and I love them. Anyway, so my mom has this saying. She says, I'm not going to worry because I already know what happens in the end. And if I know the end of the story, there's no need to worry. And I love that about my mom. I'm turning off this heat because it's popping, which means it's nice and warm. And because it's cast iron, it's going to stay nice and warm. So I don't have to worry about that part. Anyways, so I would encourage you, my friends, not to worry. If you have a relationship with Jesus, and if you don't and want to know more, I would love to talk to you. Shoot me, just leave me a comment and I will reach out to you. Give me your email address, or my email address will be in the description. You are welcome to email me with questions. If you're a believer, you know the end of the story. There's not a need to worry or fret. Be prepared. Absolutely. You've seen that I'm prepared if you've been here for any length of time. So absolutely be prepared. Take care of yourself. Take care of your people. Know what you need, what you have, and how to help yourself in times of distress. But don't worry. Worry takes away so much of our joy. It's a thief of joy. I think sometimes time is a thief of joy too, but that's really neither here nor there. So I would encourage you not to be worried about tomorrow, but instead to rely on the one who created the tomorrow. Now, if you're new here, I don't typically give little sermonettes like that. That's not my normal content. So I hope that you will just indulge me for a moment to share my faith with you. I don't have to worry. Am I concerned? Absolutely. Am I keeping watch and taking note of what's happening and being careful with my time and resources? Absolutely. It's the prudent thing to do. But I'm not worried. I know how the story ends. And there's not a need for worry when you know how the story ends. Now, moving right along, what I've done here is I've added my seasonings, mixed my Italian sausage back in, and then I put the can of green beans in. It was just one can of cut green beans. I am not sponsored by Kroger, but they are my shop of choice. So you will see that if I have anything that is store-bought, it's typically the Kroger brand. In fact, this sausage that I put in here is also the Kroger brand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this between these two things. I might have to make a third one because this is a lot of sauce. And if I have to make a third one, I might just get out a bigger dish than this. I don't know. But I'm going to split the sauce and then thin it out more. Because these are freeze-dried, they're going to need to reconstitute. And if I don't have enough water, it's going to end up a gummy mess. So there's going to be plenty of water in there to allow these to reconstitute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this amongst the two dishes, right? I might have to not use this one because it's so small. I might have to get a slightly larger one. And I have a slightly larger dish. It's just not the vintage Corningware that I like to use. Anyway, so these are going to need to rehydrate. So I'm going to set them in and let it sit there until they rehydrate a little bit. Sorry, I'm not used to a mic, y'all. I'm trying, I promise. Anywho, and then I'm going to top it in cheese and bake it until the cheese is all melty, because everything will, I mean, the potatoes have to cook through, but they're not super thick. These are thicker than those, but the sweet potatoes were cut at a 2 on my mandolin, or maybe a 2.5. And the russets were cut at a 1. So these are thinner. They'll probably rehydrate faster. Anyway, so I'm going to gather a new dish that's bigger and then I'll be back with you. Okay, so I got out a larger vintage Corningware. This is what we refer to as my meatloaf pan. It has a fun little lid and the patterns match in opposing colors. And so I'm going to do the sweet potatoes in this one and the russets in this one. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dump some of these out, remembering that they will rehydrate, right? So these snap really easily. So I'm not putting a ton in there because they will rehydrate and take up more room in the end. I thought these would be easy to just dump out, but they're really not, and it kind of surprises me a little. So I want to know, leave me a message, a comment, an email, whatever's easiest for you. By the way, I'm the one who reads every comment and every email. I don't have a team of people doing these things for me. I do it with my own eyes and my own little typey fingers. So when you're messaging our channel, I'm the one that it gets to, and I love reading messages. I'm ridiculous. I'll go ahead and admit it, but I do this kind of little happy dance because I get excited that people are watching us and are interested in what we're doing. So I'm going to take my cream mixture. Yes, this is hot. Don't worry about my counters. They are concrete. They are not marble as they appear. And I'm going to actually just scoop some of this out until I can lift it a little easier. I have some health concerns and issues, and they occasionally make my joints very weak. And so lifting this took both hands. So I'm going to try and even it out a little bit. Now it's a little bit lighter. I should be able to, hopefully. Ooh, it's still really heavy, you guys. I know people who won't use cast iron solely because of the weight. I do not let that stop me. My cast iron is my favorite. I do have some cast aluminum, and I love it. But truth be told, cast iron is my favorite. Okay? All right. Now then, that hurt. But what I'm going to do is dump some water in here with it to thin it out and to help rehydrate those potatoes. Oh, there's some bubbles happening in that one. And then I'm just going to use my little tool here. This is called a jar scraper. It's made of silicone and it just helps you get around the flat parts of your can. But it also works, you know, if you need to stir something. So I'm stirring stuff with it. Anyway, I'm just kind of mixing this all up so that the potatoes are all covered and can absorb some of that liquid. Make sure all the potatoes are submerged. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm probably going to need a little bit more water in this one. But I just want to make sure the potatoes are all covered in the water. And I'm going to need a little bit more. There. So now we're going to just put these covers on them and let the water absorb into the potatoes for a little bit. And then once that's done, we'll be able to top it with cheese and bake it. So I will come back and show you the finished product. All right, so sorry about that. This one is done. It's thickened up nicely. Sorry, I'm trying to stir and hold the phone still. And I am not a trick pony. So it's thickened up nicely. The potatoes are soft. I just tasted one. So essentially what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, top it with just a little bit of cheese. Maybe a little more. And then the little girl, also known as the one who posts these videos and puts them all together, can come and eat. I'll show you the sweet potato one when it's done as well. All right, it took longer than I thought it would to finish, but here it is. So here on camera, you're gonna watch me eat. I'm sorry, but I wanna be able to taste the potatoes. Got nice and soft, and you can still, it's still steaming. It's good. They reconstituted just fine. It's a little too much black pepper for my taste. But you know, season to your heart's content, right? So I've got a pot of soup going for Valentine's Day dinner because today is Valentine's Day. So I'm not sure when this video is coming out, but I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day. And from our little farmhouse to wherever you are that you call home, we appreciate you. Thanks, y'all. Bye.